All right, everyone, welcome back into another NBA props video. Going to be jumping into my top prop bets in the NBA for the Thursday slate of games. It's a massive slate. We got 11 games to break down, and I'll just be highlighting some of my favorite bets for that slate. Let's go ahead and get into it. Now, guys, I do want to get into a quick recap from yesterday. Yesterday, we were able to have a decent day with some of the traditional sportsbook bets going 2 for 2. Lou Dort to get over 6.5 rebounds. That was a plus bet. And then Dame Lillard to get over 25.5 points. But I also mentioned I wouldn't mind that at 26.5 on underdog there as well. Did get a little bit unlucky, I would say, on prize picks. I liked Isaiah Hartenstein and Brook Lopez for, well, the data liked it for his their under fantasy scores. And with Chris Middleton being ruled out, that obviously didn't really help. That it increases the production for Brook Lopez, which would then in hand also increase the likelihood for Isaiah Hartenstein to get minutes and have a good game as well, with Brook Lopez getting those minutes. And guys, that really continued the hot streak that we've been on thus far this month. Over 55 units of profit thus far this month, which is great. 61% hit rate as well with our bets, which is up slightly from the norm. About 60 to 59% is kind of the norm there. So very solid month. That was the case last year as well. I think it's just a case of college basketball being back, NBA being back, and NFL going on. We just have a lot more opportunities to place good bets. And also, PrizePicks and Underdog are a little bit slower to adjust those edges that we were getting. I do want to call it that I did come out with a tips and tricks video as well for the NBA. If you guys want to, make sure to check that out. It's a good refresher as well if you guys are someone that feels like they have a good grasp on props betting for NBA, WNBA, or college basketball. Make sure to check that out. I'll have that in the comment section below this video here as well. All right, so let's go ahead and get into one of my favorite bets on the day tomorrow, and that's going to be looking at Jalen Duren to get over his rebounds here of 6.5. But really, all of his bets are seemingly going to be pretty good bets for us on this slate. And so Isaiah Stewart is most likely going to be out in this game, and that's part of the reason as to why I like this bet, because it's going to increase the likelihood that we see a decent amount of minutes go to Jalen Duren in this game. In the last game where Isaiah Stewart got injured, we saw Jalen Duren get to 30 minutes. We haven't projected to get 29 minutes in this game as well. We do need that to occur because his minutes have been a little bit lower than you would really want for him. And so if we look at it, guys, this is actually a pretty darn good matchup for him as well, going against Utah. Now, Utah actually gives up the third most points to opposing bigs, and so that could be a market for us to attack here with him as well. But we look at it like Vegas minutes projection-wise as well, you should be able to get the over. That's taking his average minutes times his projected minutes based off of the line. DVP projection is also doing that exact same thing, but looking at Utah versus that position. And then just like across the board, this is one that seems like a good bet. And so this is a bet where you could potentially get on it on PrizePicks or Underdog as well. Remember, the point of me doing these NBA videos early is for us to gain some big edges on some bets that are going to be bumped or potentially will be bumped. And I really like this, but I really like all the lines that we are getting for him. So whether you want to bet on his over rebounds, points, rebounds, and assists, I'm kind of okay with all of them. The projection data also likes the over in all these spots as well. This points or rebounds and assist line is also a pretty strong one here as well. They're all solid. So per 36 wise, again, probably not going to get 36 minutes, going to get 30 minutes, but he averages 13.2 points per 36, 13.7 rebounds, and 3.5 assists per 36 as well with him off the court. Those are all pretty big bumps compared to his average as well with Isaiah Stewart off the court. Now, typically speaking, those two are not on the court together, but really, regardless, there is a decent enough sample size there, and it's more or less just looking at Isaiah Stewart when he gets minutes. And even if you adjust this like for the matchup, he should be able to get the over. Now, the one concern that we have here is that we also have two other players currently questionable for Detroit. So if Harris were to sit as well, that actually hurts Duren a little bit in terms of his rebounds. Per 36, it'll actually come closer to about 11.8 rebounds per 36, which if you extrapolate that out still for his projected minutes of 30, he still should be able to get the over, that being Jalen Duren there. Also want to call it as well for this game, Jaden Ivey is currently questionable here as well. Jaden Ivey ended up being ruled out in the last game, and I think he's going to be more likely to play in this game, whereas Harris and Stewart are more questionable. Stewart is expected to sit. Harris is questionable, but I am kind of expecting Harris to sit here as well. So I'm a little bit surprised that we are getting lines for Detroit just because of the amount of players that are currently questionable. And again, this is a strategy that I talk about in that tips and tricks video, guys. Check that out. But guys, Jaden Ivey is someone that does benefit with Stewart and Harris off the court as well. Either one of them. He averages 21.8 28 points per 36 with them off the court, which is a 1.4 bump in his points there as well. And so we're getting him for a line at 15. That seems to be a little bit too low. Now, his minutes have been a little bit sporadic. They've been a little bit lower recently as well. We can see he averages 30 minutes on the season, but he's only projected to get 28. So that is the concern there for sure. But DVP-wise, it's a very solid matchup, okay? Utah gives up the second most points to opposing shooting guards, giving up 25 per game. And so looking at that, guys, even if he gets 28 minutes, he should be able to get that over as well. And he gets a pretty decent increase in his usage. His rebounds go up by 0.8. His assists go up by 2.9 there as well. And so I really don't mind Jaden Ivey in this game as well. I think we have a decent game stacking opportunity here as well. His points and assists I could see betting on as well. They're all pretty solid there. Okay. And then lastly, if we get news that those three players all end up sitting like they did in the last game, Cade Cunningham actually becomes a player that we could be betting on there as well. Cade Cunningham over assist would actually be the way to go. Now, PrizePicks has this currently bumped to 10 because it's already a likely bet to hit. But if we get news that Ivy is out, he averages 4 more assists per 36, and he is someone that we can actually rely on to get around 36 minutes as well. We could see him get 13.4 assists, which is what he averages per 36. And again, he gets a pretty good matchup here as well going against Utah. Utah gives up an average of 10.3 per game as well. That's the third most in the league. And so that all bodes well for Cade Cunningham to get his over assist. He could get there regardless, but with Ivy off the court, he just gets that bump in usage. And I think maybe a little bit more defensive attention as well. Like if Harris is out, Ivy's out, he's getting more defensive attention. His points actually drop a little bit. His assists go up that much. And I think that's part of the reason as to why he just has to dish the basketball out a little bit more. So I really like some of the stacking opportunities that we have there with Detroit. And now, guys, let's go ahead and get into the Chicago Bulls. Okay, so the Chicago Bulls have an interesting spot here, just given the fact that Levine is currently questionable, but we know that Josh Giddey is going to sit in this game. And so I don't mind the idea of betting on Zach LaVine. Actually, if Zach LaVine were to sit, no one really directly benefits in terms of an increase in production. Kobe White would see some more minutes. Ayo would see a higher minute share as well, but they don't really benefit with those two players off the court. And so I don't mind the idea of betting on Zach LaVine to get over 20.5 points. And so now this is far from a lock and load for him to get over that point total of 20.5, basically because of the game spread, 14.5 points. We do not like that there. But LaVine is someone that could still get the minutes and has still gotten the minutes in blowout as well. So regardless, it should be fine for him. We look at the DVP projection. Again, he should be able to get there. And part of the reason as to why is with Giddey off the court, he actually sees 7 more points per 36 with Giddey off the court. So about 28 points per 36 with Josh Giddey off the court. He does see a slight increase in his rebounds and also his assists per 36, about 6 for those as well. So really across the board, these bets are all pretty solid there for Zach LaVine. Heck, he could get his over PRA just in his points. Again, about 28 points per 36. Now, the issue is that the game could be a blowout. The game could blow out a little bit faster than we would like, but that is still going to be a pretty solid bet for us. And then another bet that I don't mind is looking at Tatum to get over his point total here, and that's partially due to the fact that Porzingis could sit in this game. Again, it's a massive blowout. It's about 15 points, 14.5, I guess. The likelihood for a player like Porzingis to sit then in a game where he's currently questionable in a game that's that much of a blowout, I think increases. Okay, we saw that last week with Jared Allen, where Cleveland was favored to win maybe by Washington, and Mobley was questionable, so we were able to bet on like Jared Allen over points. That injury news went in our favor. I think that could happen again here with Tatum, where I do worry there are some blowout games where he's just like defaulting to other players because he's just not needed to score. So I don't mind the idea of betting on him for over his points here. Just a great matchup. Per 36 wise, he does average 29 points per 36 with Porzingis off the court. And if you don't want to go him, well, then you could go Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown over 23.5 points. Now, again, this is pretty early, guys. It's about a 50-50 split in terms of the likelihood for this bet to hit. But if you look at him with Porzingis off the court, he does average 25 points per 36. So not that big of a difference, but I mean, it's a lot. And the issue with this game is that it could end up being a blowout as well. So his projected minutes are a little bit lower than what he averages because of that spread. So a little bit of concern there. But again, if it's going to be a blowout, both him and Tatum are going to be part of the reason as to why. But if you wanted to choose one of those two to bet the over with, instead of both of them, I could see doing that there as well. All right, guys, so we have another interesting bet here with the Spurs. This is one that I really was gung-ho about last week maybe, or a few days ago. I don't know. The NBA spread their schedule out so much lately. It's annoying that they did that. But I think this is a pretty solid bet that we have. So part of this is going to be that Keldon Johnson is still questionable in this game. I think he's more likely to sit. And then we also have Zach Collins, who is currently questionable as well. If these two players both end up sitting again, then we're just looking at Julian Champagnie to have another good day rebounding. Okay, so he averages 5.2 on the season. So we're already on PrizePicks. We're already getting that line a little bit lower than probably it should be compared to his average. But if you look at his per 36 production with those two players off the court, he averages 7 rebounds per 36 in those games as well. Now, last game, he did end up getting 6 rebounds. So he got 2 early fouls. I do think that hurt his minutes in that game, but he still ended up getting 29 minutes in that game there as well. They are a little bit questionable, though. Like, we can't really rely on him to get 36 minutes or close to 36 minutes, but we have seen him do that somewhat recently there as well. And I have his minutes projection pulled up here, only 29 right now, so that is a little bit of a concern. DVP-wise, it's not the best, so it's not the best lock in, though, but I don't mind pairing that bet up with another bet. And that'd be Jeremy Sohan to get over his points of 10 or 15.5 as well. He was able to do this in the last game, which was a similar situation. We see him projected to get 30 minutes in this game as well. If he gets that, guys, DVP-wise, you should be able to get the over. The Vegas projection as well, adjusting for those projected minutes, tells us he should be able to get the over there as well. And per 36 wise, he sees the biggest bump in his point total and likelihood minutes as well with Zach Collins and Keldon Johnson off the court, averaging 3.7 more points per 36 at about 25 points per 36. He also gets a pretty good matchup here against Atlanta just in general, so that bodes well for him. Now, he did shoot the basketball pretty darn well, but he didn't get that many shot attempts up in the last game, which to me is a little bit concerning. Only 10 shot attempts up. Typically I would want a little bit more, but we did see him get 17 in that game. In the game before that against Portland, which was a pretty good matchup there as well, only 15. So definitely not a lock and load, but again, I don't mind pairing those two together, just increasing the likelihood for that bet to hit. And then as it sits right now, guys, we have one game that I love the idea of stacking, and that's going to be this Pelicans versus Houston game here. And it's twofold. One, Houston, a couple of the Houston players get some really good matchups here going against the Pelicans. And number two, the Pelicans are still banged up, and the lines aren't really adjusting for that just yet. We've been able to attack this twice now for the Pelicans. One time with the bets really hitting and another time with the bets missing, but the production that we were chasing was there. We just saw CJ McCollum and Trey Murphy both had poor nights shooting, and that'll happen. That could happen in this matchup against Houston as well, but that's a risk I'm willing to take, especially in a game stack. So let's touch on those bets. So you can get this bet for CJ McCollum over 20.5 points on Underdog currently, but on PrizePicks is currently at 21. I'm fine with that, guys. I was fine betting on it at 21.5 on his last game there as well. Again, he had a poor night shooting against Indiana, which was a very good spot for him. You would expected him to get the over there. I'm just writing that off as a poor night shooting in that game. And so for the Pelicans, I should call it. Like, Ingram's out, Zion Williams is out, Alvarado is expected to sit, Jordan Hawkins is expected to sit as well. Now, if one of those two players end up playing, especially Hawkins, that might make me want to be on CJ McCollum less, but he already averaged 21.1 points already on the season. Now, the Pelicans are 10-point dogs in this game. There's a little bit of a blowout risk here in this game, which is what happened against Indiana. But think about it. Like, part of the reason as to why it ended up being a blowout was because CJ McCollum only went 6 for 18 and 1 for 5 from 3. That's part of the equation there as well. If he ends up having a decent night shooting, he gets his over points. Like, the production was there. And so if he's keeping the game close, getting closer to his average, he should be able to get that over. But again, per 36 wise, he averages 24.7 points per 36 with those players off the court. And we could say the same thing for Trey Murphy as well, who, yes, he does get a little bit more difficult matchup against Houston. That's a concern. But he went 2 for 10 from 3. I love that he shot that much. 10 shot attempts from 3-ball range, even though you're cold. Thank you. I love that. That makes me want to jump on him more. And his line already went down as well. We see he averages 18 points per game. And his point total right now is set at 16. 15.5 on Underdog as well. Like, this is a pretty solid edge. His per 36 production is 19.6 points per 36 with those players off the court. And so it's a decent edge that we are getting there as well. Again, I like it in a game stack where we're just betting on this game to stay close. And now this is where we're going to start to maybe get a little bit too thin with the bets, because then we just end up betting on a little bit too many of them. But Brandon Boston as well is someone I don't mind here as well. He is someone that per 36 as well averages 17.2 points more per 36 with those players off the court. We see in the last game against Indiana, he had 20 points in that game. So that bodes well for him there as well. And then we got one more here. That's a pretty solid bet as well. And that's for Missy to get over his lines. Just really all of them. They're all a little bit too low. I actually like his points and rebounds probably the most. Again, we can see on Underdog, they currently have their line at 19.5, a slightly better bet there. But you could bet on his points on PrizePicks or rebounds as well. Both of them are very solid. Like I really don't mind the lines that we're getting on him. He is someone that per 36 wise averages 15.6 points per 36 with those players off the court and 13.7 rebounds per 36 with those players off the court. That's a +3 bump for both of those compared to his norm there as well. And so let's jump into the other side of this game here as well. So I actually don't mind the idea of betting on Fred VanVleet to get his over assist. Now, do want to point out this is going to be a much better bet on a traditional site rather than PrizePicks or Underdog because currently the lines are favored for the under. So typically we do not like to place those bets on PrizePicks or Underdog because it's just not going to be worthwhile in the long term. But I like this, and I want to point out the DVP projection as why. 7.7 if you adjust it for his projected minutes. And given the matchup, it's the best, well, it's the third best matchup in the NBA in terms of assists. And he is someone that already averages about 6.5 assists as well. And so I think the line's currently that low because of the point spread of 10 points. Maybe he doesn't end up getting that heavy minutes, but he has been someone that has gotten heavy minutes even in blowouts. So really don't mind that line there for him, especially again, if we are trying to do that game stack. And we could also look at Alfred Sengun to get his over rebounds. Now this one's a little bit tighter. I will say 11 for his rebounds is pretty high. There's probably a good chance that's just going to be 11 rebounds. But again, DVP wise, very solid matchup for him. They give up the second most rebounds in the league, does the Pelicans to opposing centers, giving up 11.2 on average. Okay. And so for Alfred Sengun, who's someone that averages about 10.6, but when you adjust it for his projection, a little bit higher than that. And so, yeah, it probably will be 11. But again, in a game stack where we're maybe trying to find another bet to run out, we could run out a 6-slip bet just by stacking this game. And again, I touched on this in that video that I talked about earlier. Again, guys, check this out. It's a good tip and trick there where right now we can currently stack in the NBA without getting our payouts reduced. And that has created a pretty nice edge for us. And that's part of the approach here. So I do want to go ahead and get into the bet of the day here, but want to remind you guys of the promo code that's currently going on the website. Use the promo code Keep Cashing to get 20% off your first 9 to 5 month membership. Get access to all the best bets for that day on both PrizePicks or Underdog. I'll pull up the cheat sheet right now. We got several of really strong bets that we can make right now in the NBA. Wendell Carter over rebounds, 7.5. All right. Could toss that in here to the bet of the day. I'm not going to do that, full disclosure, guys, but if you guys are someone that's watching this video the day I post this, like an hour after I post this, and any of these bets are still available, by all means, go ahead and target those. But again, use that promo code Keep Cashing if you guys are looking to sign up. That'll save you guys $2 on your first 9 to 5 month membership. And so jumping into my first favorite bets, I got 8 here, and I'm going to show you guys kind of that stack again. Very solid, a little edges here in some of these bets. Obviously, we have a little bit of game stacks here with Levine over points paired with maybe Jaylen Brown and Tatum, so I'm fine with that. But again, I do think we have some pretty solid game stacks. And then here is kind of just a sample of that stack I called out with that Pelicans versus Houston game. I really like that idea of stacking those two together. And same thing with the Jeremy Sohan and Julian Champagnie for his, or just pairing those two together as a stack. Champagnie over 5.5 rebounds, Jeremy Sohan over his 15.5 points. Part of that as well is one, we're betting on Keldon Johnson and Zach Collins to be out. That'd be huge. But 2 is that the minutes and rotations are still somewhat the same as to what we have seen the previous games. Thus, that would increase the likelihood of those hitting there as well. Now, that's going to do it for today's video. Probably will come out with another video tomorrow covering more of the PrizePicks and Underdog bets specifically that are going to be good bets for us there. It's going to be a massive slate. I'm expecting us to get massive edges. That's all, though, for this video, guys. Make sure to give a like. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Comment your guys' favorite prop bet as well. That's all, guys. Good luck with your bets. And as always, let's keep cashing.